Hello and welcome. In today's video, we'll be having a look at how we can import and leverage Navisworks Timeliner information to review different tasks for our activities in Power BI thanks to the use of Vcad. Now, for starters, you can see I have my project open, and if we go ahead and have a look at the Timeliner panel, you can see that I have different tasks defined. And for each one of these, they have been attached to a specific set. This will be very important in a moment because it is how we will connect to the objects. But first off, what we want to do is we want to export the Timeliner data. I won't be going over how you set up the Timeliner. There are other resources you can find online for that. For now, all we're going to do is come here to the top right of the panel and export the schedule. And we're going to export it as a CSV file, and we're going to save it as a file. You can see here I have my old test, so Timeliner activities will do just fine. Save it. And now that we have exported the Timeliner data, we're going to need a way to relate the tasks to the geometries in our model. Now, one important thing to notice is in Navisworks, if I select an item, you'll see that I get also a Timeliner panel here showing me what activity it has been attached to. Now, this is fine in Navisworks. However, this information will not be exported in the Vcad dataset. And so we need another way to bridge the connection between these two datasets. So to do that, we're going to use the sets. So I've defined a series of different sets here, which are the ones that I've attached to the tasks. And if we have a look at one of these sets, so I can just select it. What we want to do now is we want to have a look at the selection inspector. So if you select up here, selection inspector, here you can see basically we're having a look at a series of quick properties. Now this may vary in your case. You may have no quick properties defined or other quick properties defined. It's okay. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to export this data. But first we need to add one specific quick property that we need, or a couple actually. So if we come up here to quick property definition, what we're going to need is we're definitely going to need a quick property called category item and property GUID. This GUID uniquely identifies the geometries within the Navisworks model, and this is something we can use to connect to the extracted data from Vcad. So I definitely want item and GUID. And then I want to add another quick property. And here we're going to change the category, pulling from Timeliner. And what we're going to have a look at is the attached to task 1. So this will basically tell me which task the geometry has been connected to. So if we go ahead and click OK, you can see now I have my new column available. And this setup can vary slightly depending on how your Navisworks model is constructed, but the idea is this. So I want to have quick properties that allow me to uniquely identify the geometries using regular properties that will be in the Vcad dataset, and also I want the connection to the Timeliner data. So once I've done that, I can go ahead and I can export this CSV. Of course, make sure to select all the selection sets that you are interested in, and then go ahead and export. And again, we are going to export as a CSV file, and this we can just call sets for now. Go ahead and save. Okay. Now, once you do that for all the selection sets in your project, we can go ahead and switch over to Power BI. So now that we are in Power BI for the template of our specific model, we can go ahead and import that data we've extracted from Navisworks and have a better look at what that structure is and how it can be useful. So we're going to go ahead and do a get data, text CSV, and we're going to start by importing that Timeliner activities. Go ahead and open it up. And Power BI should be able to recognize all the data, so we can just go ahead and load it up. Now we can go ahead and also import the sets. So you can see here we have different columns. Go ahead and load this up, and then we're going to have a look in transform data. So let's head on over to transform data so we can see better what is happening. Okay, so the Timeliner data we can see has here a column that basically identifies the attached set, but this isn't something we have access to. So what we can use is the name of the actual task. And in the sets, there's some issue here with the first column, so we can clean this up in just a second. The other thing we want to see is that we have, as we said, the GeoID, and we have the actual task name over here. So we can start by fixing up these headers. So to do that, what we want to do is we want to replace some values. Let's see if we can do it on multiple columns. Yes, so I select all the columns and I want to replace values. And here basically what's happening is we have a character return and new lines that are separating the what were in Navisworks, the class and the actual item. So here basically I'm going to say, okay, I want you to replace these characters with a dash. If we go ahead and apply this, it looks like Power BI did some formatting for us. So let's just clean this up. So what this function should actually look like is this. So it's supposed to be pound CR, pound CR. No, sorry. It's supposed to be, so, pound CR, pound CR, pound LF. So if we do this and click outside, there we go. So now we've cleaned this up. At this point, we can go to transform, use the first row as headers. There we go. And this is more what we were looking for. So for now, we can go ahead and the other thing we're going to need is we're going to need a way to reconnect this data to the objects. But for now, let's just apply this so we can see the data sets. So if we head on back to the report, here we can go to the relationships. We can move some things around. So basically here I have my sets and here I have my Timeliner activities. And now these two can already be connected because the Timeliner attached task will be the same as the name that we have here in the Timeliner. So if we just find the name column, we can drag it over. There we go. It'll be one too many. We can save. And here we have our connection between the Timeliner data and these sets. What we need now is a way to connect these sets data to the assets. And as we said, we're going to use the item GeoID. However, in my assets table, I don't have the GeoID. So we're going to need to pull it out from the Vcad properties dataset. So let's head on back to Power Query. If we have a look at Vcad properties, we can go ahead and create a reference to this table. We're going to rename this to GeoIDs. Maybe drag it down here. And here it's very simple. All we want to do is we want to filter out the property GeoID. So let's just undo everything and select GeoID. There we go. So we have item GeoID, which is exactly the setup for the quick property that we've exported. With this done, we can now remove all columns except for the object ID and the actual value. So remove other columns. And then we're going to rename the value column to GUID. There we go. And so now we have a table that connects these two. What we can do now is we can merge this back into the Vcad assets. So if we come on over here and we merge queries, I'm going to merge my GUIDs using the object ID, of course. There we go. You'll see not every item has a GUID, but that's perfectly fine. What we're interested in is knowing that all items that do have a GUID will then be connectable. Explode the table, only using the GUID column. And there we have it. Okay, so for this now, we're pretty much ready to go for our connection. So we can go ahead and apply. And now returning to the report and to the model view, we can now connect the GUID column with the item GUID in sets. And there we have it. We now have a connection. Let's make this bidirectional. So cross filter direction both. And let's probably do it also on this relationship. So cross filter direction both, apply changes. Head on back to our report. We can take our asset detail report and we can duplicate this to use it as a basis for our Timeliner dashboard. We're going to rename this real quick to Timeliner. Oh, not like that. Timeliner, there we go. Okay, now let's start adding our Timeliner data to the report itself. So if we squeeze this down a bit and extend here, we can add, for example, the tasks to our report. So if I extend here task, the Timeliner data, I have the name, drag this in, and now I can rename this for this visual. We're going to call this task. There we go. And you'll notice not all objects have a task connected to it. Some do, some don't. So first thing we want to do is we want to probably exclude everything that isn't connected to a task. To do that, we could either use the page filters over here, or we can just drop in a slicer. So I'll show you both ways. So we start from the slicer. In the slicer, I can drag in the task name. And if we go to the formatting options, I can add over here under selection, the select all option. This allows me to select all, and I can then exclude the blanks. And if we go ahead and add the hide up here, you can see now all of our objects are connected to a task. The other option would have been to come to the filters on this page. And again, here we can drag in the name and select everything except for the blanks. There we go. That way we're sure that every object is a valid object in our Timeliner. Of course, we're looking at Timeliner data, so we probably want some sort of time filter. So to do that, we can use another slicer, drop it in here, and the slicer in this case, we could use any one of the dates that we prefer. For now, let's do the planned end. And let's change it a little. So if I go over to formatting options and then slicer settings, I can change the style. Rather than a between, let's do a before. Before. So we can basically navigate through time and see all the work that has been done up to a certain date. And of course, if I follow along here, you can see my construction coming along. Finally, let's add some information, some more information to this table. So what I can do is I can actually remove the object type in the source file that isn't interesting to me. I want the task, the name, and then I want the, let's do the planned end date and the actual end date. I want the full date, not the hierarchy. And if I find the actual end, I can add this as well. Again, not the hierarchy. For both, I also probably want to change the formatting, but that can be done at a second point in time. So now I have the various dates. Of course, not all tasks have been completed yet. Finally, let's add a little representation of the completion through the various dates. So what we can do is we can add this 4D representation. So in my bar charts, I'm going to count the number of objects. We'll keep it simple for now. So I'm just going to count the number of GUIDs over the actual end. Or actually, let's do the planned. So over the planned end. And I, of course, did this the wrong way around. So, of course, the y-axis will be my the count of GUIDs, whereas the planned, sorry, did it again. So GUIDs is the y-axis. So I want to know how many objects over the time period. There we go. Okay, so this is a very simple example of what you could do with Timeliner data once you have it in Power BI and connected to the model, thanks to the use of Vcad. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for upcoming videos in the future.